Hello again. I don't know if I've got the new techie guy on with me now because the other techie guy had to go home a bit early. He's feeling the strain. But you may wonder why I'm waving this about. Let me check first. Can everybody hear me all right? I think so. Let's scroll down there just to make sure the sound's okay. You only get right down to the bottom. Yep. Are you okay? Everybody hear me? Give us a thumbs up, folk, if you can hear me all right. Nobody's speaking to us. What's happening? Yes! Ah, we're all right. Okay, scroll up to the top again. So, yes, these gloves we put up last night, they went very well. Now, we're running out. What sizes are we running out? Large and XL. XL and large are running very short. So, if you want any, please get them. The techie guy, not the techie guy, brother Patrick's very happy because he got rid of a load of these. So, if you want some more of them, the links will be there. Get your hands on these beautiful fine leather gloves. And we have some of these lying about, and we've just had a shipment, half a shipment in, and another bit part of the shipment's going on Friday. So anybody who's been waiting in weapons will be able to get them out for you. Good stuff. This is a fearsome looking thing. Oh, it's vicious. I'm going to put it down there very gently. Put it on my desk. That's it. How are you all? God bless each and every one of you. You know me, Jim Dowse, and I am your guest, the long guest presenter of the daily Templar report, and we're going to have Nick on today, but he can't make it because he's going senile with his age, because he said, I've got the electrician in the day, but that won't matter, I won't make too much noise, until his wife, quite rightly, reminded him that the electrician will turn the electricity off. So he's going to be with us tomorrow. How's that? Nick's going to be here tomorrow. So there we go. He's a funny age. Right, I want to read you a wee bit of scripture. Again, we're in Proverbs, chapter 22. This is a great bit. This one always sticks with me from my youth. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Yeah. It also says later on in the Bible, instruct a child in the scriptures, and he'll not depart from them. That's it. If you train up a child correctly, 9 times out of 10, they'll be fine. And people often moan at me that their kids have went mad. But they had 2 parents working, nobody instructing the kid. Is it any wonder? So, no guarantee, but 9 times out of 10, it'll be all right. And we know the Lord will add his blessing to this, the public reading of his infallible, inspired word. Amen. Now, I know we're running things on different, we're on the Purged and we're on the YouTube simultaneous, is it? Ooh, can you do that, brother? I'm impressed. So I don't know where I am. Somebody wants a link up there, but I don't know how to do it, to order the gloves on the Purged. I don't know how to do that. Do you know how to do it? Do you know how to put a link on the Purged? Well, if the mods are watching, try and put a link for the gauntlets on the Purged page, because somebody's wanting them. And I think I've seen somebody else wanting this horrific weapon. If you're in Australia, you can't get it. Your government doesn't allow it in. So, as long as you're not in Australia, you can get one, but they're banned in Australia. I'm not surprised. This thing's a ferocious thing. Anyway, we want to crack on and see how we are. Can you go into the YouTube so I can thank everybody? Because I can't work this out. It's a bit bad for my eyes. I see Bartley Burker. I see some different folk. Aye, let's go up here. Right, okay. I'll do this vault first. So, who do I see? Bartley Burker. Motorbike Crusader. Oh, that's Ralph. Oh, yes. Christopher Strid, Smiley, KTO, Paul Telfer, Stuart Duncan, Scott. Oh, they're all there, aye. Mr. Payton, Peter Holden, Jonathan, Lady Rotha. She's in there. Very technically accomplished, that woman. Now, let me get in here. Andy, how you doing, Andy? Niles, how you doing? William Mumford, Ralph Rowley, Colette Whitney, lovely Colette. Nice, kind woman to me, that. Ralph Rowley, Jacob Lewis, Ewan Eggerstrom, how you doing? Jonathan Boudin, my good French-Canadian friend. He's a good man, that. All the people are good men. Antonio Rebello, Gary Hardwick. Who else we got there? A lot of folk. Christopher Studdy, I've seen him. Greg Howarth, Bartley Burker, yep, seen him. Philip Milne, how you doing? Scott Rash, how you doing, Scott? Burt Myers, very good indeed. Mr. Campbell, how you doing? Malcolm Cook. Yeah, quite a few folk in here, yep. Paul Telford, yeah, I think I've seen him. Elliot Lamb, nice to see you in the room. There's a few new people, I think, as well. So, right, let's get cracked on with this and see where we're. I'm hoping the other guy can put some links up for you, but All right, okay, good stuff. That's good. I woke up this morning. To somebody tell me that I was all over the newspapers. I said, again? What have I done now? I thought, oh, it's another expose of us helping Trump. But no, even more bizarre. This is the main paper in Northern Ireland. The Belfast Telegraph. I think it's one of the oldest papers in the world. Or is that the other one, the newsletter? I think the newsletter. So the oldest newspaper in the world is actually a Belfast paper. But anyway, here we are. Let me get this to show you this. It's absolute madness. Now, this is obviously the spooks operation. This is MI5, MI6, whatever it is. Flag protester pays tribute to hunger striker. Now, you might not think that's a lot. That's a very politically loaded message in this country. Because I'm obviously from a unionist Protestant background. And they're saying here that I'm paying tribute to an Irish Republican, the mayor of Cork, who stabbed himself to death, I believe, in 1920. So it's more or less, but then you had the hunger strikers in the 1980s, the IRA, the modern IRA, who I certainly do not have support for. But I certainly have a lot of support for the people in 1916, even though my own family and my wife's family were all burned out of our homes. But, it's a long time ago. But I certainly wasn't supporting the hunger strike commemoration. What I was supporting is these fellas they're alleged to be Sean the Hern. They would deny it, of course. It's an anonymous protest group because everybody's banned from marching about. So they took to the streets, this anonymous group, who we don't know, we have no idea who they are. They took to the streets and marched through this old graveyard, this old ruined monastery in the dark, and all you could see against the skyline, it was just getting dark. The dusk was the big old Celtic crosses and a big tower of the old monastery in the background with trees growing out of it. It was the best cinematography I've seen from a nationalist group in many, many years. What do you call him? Steven Spielberg would have been envious of it. It was fantastic. And they were all marching beautifully with their flags. I don't know if you can see that. They were all marching beautifully with their flags and the torchlight procession. It was great. Anyway, they suddenly dragged me into it and basically say that every right-wing group in Ireland is me running it, or obviously by default us. Every group you can imagine, which is just not true. It's just nonsense. It's just fake news written by a reporter called Lauren Hart, who tends to put these things out just weird, sporadically. But she's probably been fed that by MI5 or the Irish Security Services, which is G2, I think. But that's where this is coming from. And who's the people carrying this story on all the websites? All the communists. All the Republican Marxist groups are all pushing this. Isn't it interesting? How they're all working hand in glove. Very strange. But again, they're playing up the old bigotry angle and the old nationalist stuff and giving away my address. Not that I keep it secret, it's a matter of public record. And that's the way it is. But they've got me down as all sorts of things now. There's a couple of things I like here, actually. Where is it? So they have me down here as being described as the most influential man on the right. Oh, I quite like that. Yeah, so they just rant and rave, generally having a jibe at everybody that you could ever imagine. And they tell lies. It's just nonsense from start to finish. But there you go. A full page in the main newspaper in the country. So, what do you do with these people? They're completely mad. About a third of the stuff's true and the rest of it's just utter nonsense. But there's been far worse said about me. And saying that I'm actually supportive of devout Christian Irish patriots is certainly no slur. Because I am. And if they think I'm going to run into a corner and deny it because of my background, I'm not going to do that, because I believe in no more brothers' wars. On this island of Ireland, the orange and green must unite. And the orange and green united can never be defeated. But what we do have to beat is the reds. We have to beat the reds and the rainbow. And when we do that, we'll have a free and just Ireland, north and south. Now, whether it's two countries or one country, that remains to be seen. But we must unite to clear our lands of the traitors and impostors who are sullying the name of our glorious dead from both traditions. So that's where I am on that. So if this paper had just phoned me up and I gave them a quote, far better and far stronger than they wrote. But I don't know what's wrong with them. Anyway, who cares? Right, I want to read you some stories here that are pretty grim. Now, what one am I going to start with? Have you got a running order for these, brother? Have you got pictures or anything? No? One picture? What's it for? Manchester. Okay, I'll run Manchester first then. Okay, here's a horrible story in. Remember, like the video, click subscribe, press the bell and comment below. Okay, the Manchester Arena, you remember the Manchester Arena bombing when Ariana Grande was doing a concert in Manchester, England, and this nutter suicide bomber and detonated a bomb, killed a load of kids, 29 people or something like that. Horrible. Stinks to high heaven. That bomber came into Britain on a Royal Navy frigate from Libya. So he was an asset. He was a security force asset who turned rogue. There you go. But let me get to the story. Manchester Arena inquiry. The security guard did not raise alarm about the bomber when he seen him with a backpack on because he was scared of being branded a racist. Folks, this is what I keep telling you. These people who are pushing all this don't be a racist agenda are actually killing people because everybody's frightened to open their mouth now even when they do see something suspicious. So here's a guard saying he didn't challenge this guy or raise the alarm because he seen a guy, obviously brown skinned, thought he was a Muslim of some description, but he didn't say anything because he didn't want to be branded a racist, and now 30 children were blown to pieces. Wonderful. A security guard who was working on the night of the Manchester Arena attack has told an inquiry that he did not raise the alarm about Salman Abedi because he was scared of being branded racist. Because people can lose their job nowadays for profiling people. He failed to alert his control room about the bomber, Abdi, who was hiding in the area in the back of the city room foyer after being told about Abadi 6 minutes before the explosion. So he's seen him hiding and never raised the alarm because he didn't want to lose his job being called a racist. It was the last chance to stop the audience at the Ariana Grande concert leaving the arena before the blast in May 2017, which killed 22 people. Mr. Lawler told the inquiry Abedi was sitting among a group of white people and described his behaviour as slightly nervous. The statement of Kyle Lawler, an 18-year-old steward at the time of the bombing, was read out to the inquiry. Quote, I was scared of being wrong and being branded a racist. If I got it wrong, I would have got into trouble. It made me hesitate on what to do by overreacting or judging someone by their race. It's killing people, folks. It's killing our children. That's nonsense. He told the inquiry he tried to call his boss in his radio but could not get through. Paul Greaney, QC for the inquiry, asked, when you went to work, were you aware you had to be alert to the material risk of a terrorist attack? Mr. Lawler said, I think I was quite naive at the time. One of those things where, yes, it was a possibility, but it won't happen to me. If he grew up in Belfast, he wouldn't have been thinking like that. Mr. Lawler said he had been working for ShowSec, the security contractors at the arena, since leaving school at 16, earning £4.24 an hour, but he had never had to deal with a suspicious person before that evening. How tragic. And all those kids lost their lives because people are so terrified of being called a racist. But I just want to give you a wee bit more detail about Mr. Salman Abedi. Salman Abedi was flying an ISIS flag from his house. He attended a mosque where over 20 people from that mosque went to fight in Syria. Most of them never come back, they were killed. His brother was a terror guy as well. He's in jail now. And he was once out in the street shouting Allah Akbar and all these crazy stuff things, waving an ISIS flag, and when his neighbours phoned the police to come and deal with him, the neighbours were cautioned and told if they'd done it again, they would be charged with racially aggravated mischief or whatever it was. And then he goes and kills 22 kids. That's what we're in now. So these lefty liberals, these snowflakes, are not harmless cuckoos or crackpots. They are facilitating the murder of innocent men, women and children on the streets of our countries, not just Britain, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, America, France, Germany, Belgium, Holland, all across the world. People are dying because people are so scared of voicing their concerns of what they see and what they observe. That's where we are, my friends. Now, I want to also I'm going to go into this new poll coming out of America about LGBT. It's terrifying. I can't believe it. But before I get there was something I made notes of the other day and I forgot to mention it. Somebody's mentioning there we're getting into a full... hi, Karen and Sharon. How you doing? Bearing up today? Hope so. Thoughts and prayers always. Yeah, I want to face reality here. We are getting into another lockdown. We're in another lockdown. I don't know what we're debating. The Americans won't understand this. You've got an election. After the election, you'll be in lockdown and all. There's this mad lockdown going on. And... oh, by the way, is that him? Have you got that picture up? Could the people see him? This is the bomber. just show the people quickly before I go into this. That's the bomber. You know what he's doing there? One God, Allah. This is why we do in the Templars, we do this. You see it? We do this. This is our salute. Not a Nazi salute. We do that. It's an Orthodox salute. Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Okay? Or this. We do this. The same thing, the Trinity. And that's how you bless yourself in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Ghost. So some people do this. Other people do this. These people, ISIS, not they do this. One. No, we beat three. Three beats one. Remember that. So I was thinking about, we're going into this lockdown, and some people, I mean, they can't all be pretending to believe it. Some people, a lot of people are genuinely terrified of this lockdown. I thought, what's causing this? Is it some kind of political agenda, political ideology? What is it? And I thought about it for a long, long time. And I've come up with the answer. I know exactly what it is. Godlessness. Because we've lived through the last 40, 50 years of unprecedented wealth and hedonism. People could get, I mean, I'm not that old. I mean, 1980s, I remember getting a bank card. People of my generation were the first people in this country to get bank accounts. And working class people. My father and all them never had bank accounts. They all get paid at the work and once a week in a wage packet. Never need a bank account. My generation all of a sudden get bank accounts. We thought, wow, we are hitting the big time here. We've got bank accounts. Nothing in it. But the fact we had one was incredible. And then we started getting plastic bank cards. And then about the mid-80s, we started getting these things from America called Visa and Access cards, credit cards. I had one. Imagine giving me, 18-year-old, a credit card. Let me tell you, it took me 10 years to pay off it because I was just going mad and buying all sorts of nonsense. So I'm very wary of them. But, you know, so from being in a situation where, you know, when I was a small boy, my father get paid on a Wednesday night. So from Monday and Tuesday we were eating bread. We dripping with sugar sprinkled on it. We were just living hand to mouth day by day. And all of a sudden in the mid-80s we had credit. I had a mortgage at 19 for a house, a 3-bedroom masonette, and all this stuff. So we all started living at large. And the middle class had this a generation before us. So they were living at large from the 1960s. The middle class, the working class only started getting onto that boat in the 80s. Because the capitalists would want to push more and more credit on us. So it was fake money, it was fake wealth. And we all went mad and we were living it great. And we were going holidays to Spain and we were all buying cars. I mean, I grew up on the street, one man had a car, my father, because it was a company van. But, you know, we all started living way out of means. I know this will be strange to you Americans because you started living well in the 50s. We were 30 years behind you. But it was unbelievable. So everybody's had it great, no need for God. And now they're getting very, very old. So the original baby boomers of 1945 are now 75. My generation, the biggest ever, baby boomers, 1964s, we're now 55. So they're at death's door. Their friends are dropping like flies. We're entering the death chamber now. My generation, we know there's more years behind us than there is in front of us. And people are losing their mind. Because they've got everything. They've got fantastic lives. They've got index-linked pensions. Once they're 55, they never need to work a day in their life. They've got 30, 40,000, 50, 60,000 coming in an index-linked pension for the rest of their days. Their mortgage is paid off. Their 1.1 child is away somewhere working as an executive producer in China somewhere. They're living at large. They go out 3 nights a week for lovely dinners in Italian restaurants and all this stuff. They don't want to die. They don't want to die. They think this is fantastic because they've no idea that what here is now is nothing but an oily rag compared to the many mansions the Lord has prepared for us in heaven. They don't understand that. They don't believe that. So they think, this is brilliant. I've got everything I need. I've got a beautiful house, beautiful car, plenty of money, loads of money, could never spend what I've got. Me and the wife are out 3, 4 nights a week eating out in fine restaurants and doing all that stuff. And we've no worries, we've no cares. It's fantastic. And then they look in the mirror and they think, oh, I never noticed that wrinkle. Oh, my hair's white. Oh, I creak a bit in the morning when I get out of my bed. Oh, I've got to sit down now to put my boots on. Oh, maybe I won't be here that much longer. Yeah, you're right, you won't be. You're going to die like all men. And this is what's driving them neurotic. They cannot deal with this. They cannot deal with this. So they fear death with such a ferocious terror that any mention they might get kung flu and die has put them into a tailspin. For real. They're not pretending. They're actually terrified. And that's what's happening, my friend. That's what happens to people without God. They'll lose their marbles. Because what else is there? There's nothing to live for. Nothing to live for. And they're terrified of dying. But they will die. And this is why they are now going insane. And I mean literally insane and believing anything. And they're so fearful of catching anything that might shorten their lives. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. And it won't make a blind bit of difference because, we know, as appointed unto men to die once. Then cometh the judgment. And nobody escapes that. Doesn't matter how much money you've got in the bank. Doesn't matter how many letters are after your name. It doesn't matter if your name's in lights and you're the most powerful industrialist or movie star or pop star. You come into this world naked and you'll go out naked. You come in with nothing and you'll go out with nothing. And like all men, you'll stand before the mercy seat and you'll have to plead your case before God. And if you haven't got the wrapped in Christ's imputed righteousness, you're gone to a lost eternity. Only his sheep who heard his voice and followed are off to glory. Amen. And that's what these people now are beginning to realise. They've wasted their lives. They've followed mammon. They've chased the money rather than chasing righteousness. It's too late for them now. Too late. So, if anybody is watching this and hasn't got themselves sorted out yet on the God front, you need to get your act together. Because we know we're in the process of mourning a brother who's just departed. Now, thankfully, he was in the Lord. But you know, it could, who knows? You're here 1 minute and gone the next. Do you understand? This could be the last night of your life watching Jim Dawson. Sorry, not much of a night, I know that. But it could be. And all over the world, it will be the last night for thousands of men and women who will part this scene of time tonight, this day. So don't let it be the last day without Christ. I really mean that. Now, I want to go into this story here. Shock poll. Are you sure this is true? I'll need to go to America and investigate this. Shock poll claims that 30% of US women under 25, I believe it now, identify as LGBT. A third of all women in America under 25 reckon that they're LGBT. This is a terrible thing with dire implications. I'll read it here. A shocking new private poll shared by one of the country's leading data scientists claimed that 30% of American women under 25 identifies homosexual, bisexual, or transgender. In 2009, for the first time in history, there were more unmarried women in the United States than married ones. A large part of the trend away from marriage is attributed to young women rejecting sexual complementarity and complementarity. What's that word mean? Sexual what? I don't know. And identifying as lesbians, bisexuals, or members of the opposite sex. As the poll is limited to women under 25, it doesn't reflect changes to women's sexual preferences later on in life, while they're still able to have children. Conservative journalist Stella Morabito warns that the singles movement serves a statist agenda, increasing the role of the government in individual lives while diminishing individuals' freedom. That's true. I can see that. A small vocal and organising core of singles activists are starting to prod and poke everyone to tell marrieds, check your privilege. These folk are bonkers, aren't they? They're totally mad. They're totally mad. And I see people who aren't married and who have never took up, and they're miserable. Oh, I can go out at the weekend and get blind drunk and chase women and chase men, whatever they do. Yeah, you wake up on a Sunday with a big sore head, no money in your pocket, and feeling like a balloon because of the stupidity you got up to the weekend. How do I know this? Because I used to do it. I know from personal experience. No, you need to get married, settle down, have wains, and just behave yourself. That's how societies work. If you don't have this, you don't have a society. But here's the other thing, and it's true this all serves the state. The state don't want families. I watched a film the other night there with your man in it. Who's that fella that was in Dirty Dancing? Patrick Swayze. Now, I watched that film the other night called Next of Kin, and this is why you need families. The story is his brother was an Appalachian man, West Virginia, and he was working up in Chicago, and the mafia killed his brother, and there was all sorts of trouble. Then the kin, the family, he says, I've got 3 counties of kin, and they all went up and went to war with the mafia, and the mafia came off rather bad in it. Because you don't mess with kin. And when you've got family, big extended family, in Scotland, the last family wedding we had was 600 people at it to hire the town hall. 600 is. So you mess with one of us, you're going to mess with a lot of people. A lot of people. And some of them aren't very pleasant. Some of them are a bit wild. And that's how you need big, strong families. Then you need strong towns, strong cities. You need strong structures by the people. Or bad governments will just dictate to us and treat us like serfs, like slaves. We need to be strong. And that strength starts in the family. A family starts when a man meets a woman, they make a lifelong commitment, and they have babies. From that grows strong societies. And that means the tyrants can never rise up. And that's why in Ireland here we had a civil war here, and the British could do nothing about it, because in the little back streets of Belfast, both areas, if you went into one wee tiny street, they were so narrow you could only get a car up them, one car. And there was maybe 50 houses, that side 50 there, 100 houses. Between those 100 houses they could put 500 men on the street. 500 men, wouldn't even be 100 yards, they could put 500 men, and those were street after street after street after street. So thousands of men could be on the street, young men, in seconds, and take on the army, take on the police, whatever. You can't beat that. And that's why they've knocked all these streets down. That's why they've introduced the Abortion Act. That is why they've encouraged people with these women's centres and these hellish things straight out of the pit of hell to keep people single so they don't get together, so they do not marry, they do not have children, and they do not have strong societies. That's why they've done it, folks. They're 50 years into the plan of making us individualists and slaves to Big Brother, slaves to the corporate giants who really control the government. Do you understand that? The government don't control you or me. It's big corporations who control the politicians, and they then in turn control us. So ultimately you're being controlled by the big tech companies and the pharma companies. That's who calls the shots, not the presidents, not the prime ministers. Ultimately, it's the big money who controls everything. Donald Trump's been trying to fight against that. He's been successful in some areas, not successful in others. But it's a blip. It's a blip on the map, because eventually they will always control everything. They can't control Donald Trump, which they can't. They control the apparatus around President Trump. The poor man can hardly do anything because he's been stifled at every single thing he tries to do is squashed. Why? Because the big tech and pharma companies, the armament companies, their lobbyists are all around them doing what they say, not what the elected president of the people says. And that's the problem. That's the big problem. So, yeah, somebody says you're speaking to the converted here, I know, but there's people who still don't get it into their heads. And I've seen another thing, running out of time here, but I've seen another thing. There's a big row in Britain now because the government's not too keen in giving children free school meals during the Christmas holidays. I don't even know how that would work. How does that work? Do people go for the school around your house to give your kid a sausage roll? Must be. Let me tell you this. Now, I come from dire poverty. But it is not my responsibility, it is not your responsibility to look after somebody else's kids. My responsibility is to look after my children, which is hard enough. And I'm sure you're the same. It's not our responsibility to look after other people's kids. That's ridiculous. That's utterly ridiculous. I seen one woman on the TV yesterday. She lives in a farm. She's got acres of land. Okay, she's lost her job, but she said this, with her hands folded. It's not my fault I lost my job. So somebody has to feed my kids. Sell an acre of land, you daft woman. You get £20,000 for it. You barely feed yourself and your kid for the next couple of years. And a lot of these inner city young mothers, single mothers mainly, they don't know how to cook. They think everything's pre-made, so these things are expensive. The other day I had friends coming to visit me. I made a huge pot of soup, a gallon of soup for £2. Oh yes. And I made a big chicken curry, and the next day I put different spices in it. I made an Italian chicken one day, and then I put some Pakistani spices in it and made it an Indian curry the next day. I must have spent less than a tenner, and it fed 5 or 6 adults for 2 days. We need to have parenting classes for people. We need to have common sense classes for people. Yeah. I know that. Politicians' meals, I know all about it. I worked in the European Parliament, and you get in there and there's like the staff canteen, everyone's subsidised, but it's kind of cheap food anyway. Or you go to the MEP's big fancy restaurant. Oh, come in, sir, how are you? And in there it's absolutely subsidised to the hilt. And you can order Chateauneuf de Pape wine, you can order Chateaubriand, the finest food you've ever seen. Fillet steaks and foie gras and all the fineries that money can buy. And you pay like £5 for the whole thing. Same in the Westminster restaurants and bars, which there's 14 of. And you can smoke in some of them. And you can smoke in the European Parliament as well. Oh, they banned it everywhere else. So, yes, of course, these guys are making a fortune. and their food and their wine is subsidised. So I can buy a £40 bottle of wine in the European Parliament or in the British Parliament, which I'm banned from, for like £5. £40 bottle of wine for £5. What a gig. So these people are all corrupt scumbags who are bleeding you and me dry. The working class have been bled white by these politicians. And by the way, even some of the upper, people who make big money, in the 70s in Britain, we were paying, not me, but people who are making big money, 98% in a pound super tax. What happened? They just left the country. Who's going to pay 98 pence in a pound? 98% of all your earnings goes to the government. I don't think so. So all the talented people, all the clever people, they all left. They just went to America, Canada, Australia. Who wouldn't? Who would allow people to put their hand in their pocket and steal your money like that? It's ridiculous. But that's socialism. Socialism always wants to steal other people's money. They don't want to do anything with their own money. What's their motto is, what's yours is mine, and what's mine is my own. That's the socialist mantra. They're extremely generous, but with other people's money, never their own. And if you noticed, it's nearly all the socialists, they're filthy, stinking rich. It's incredible. And they're tax dodging and all this. You get these comedians, that comedian Jimmy Carr or something, he's always on, up with the people, down with the Tories, down with the bourgeoisie, all this stuff. He was all over the papers. He had all these weird machinations going to hide his money here and hide his money there. And we're not paying super tax now. Even guys like him pay normal tax. But he was still hiding his money, but still shouting, up the workers. If you cared about the workers, sir, you and your ilk, you'd pay your tax. You'd pay your tax. That would help the workers. We could lower the tax then for normal, poorly paid people. These people are absolute blood-sucking parasite scum. That's what they are. These tax dodgers and all the rest of it. No time for them. But if the government's trying to rob you, I believe you have a moral obligation to avoid it. If they're trying to screw you into the ground. The Bible, this book here, gives us the tax code. Remember, and even when Jesus said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, well, the Bible tells you what should be Caesar's. It's 10%. Everybody, whether you're earning £1 million a year or £10,000 a year, should pay 10%. Now you might think, well, that's no fair if you're earning £1 million a year. Really? Well, a guy who earns £1 million a year and pays 10% is paying £100,000. If you're earning 10 grand a year and you pay 10%, you're paying £1,000. So it is fair. That guy's paying 100 times more than you. So, let's get this real. We pay 10%, everybody. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to debate it. You don't have to worry your head about it. The Bible, which means God who created the universe, has said every man should pay 10%. That's it. There's no more discussion needed. We don't have to talk about it. Anybody who takes more than 10% off you is stealing your money. According to this book, according to God. So I'll go with the Bible every time. So that's where we are. And I know people who are in small businesses are being driven into the ground with a lockdown, with a bureaucracy, and just a total disregard. Do you know why? Because all the government workers are on furlough. They're getting their full wages. So basically they've had now an 8-month paid holiday for doing nothing. I can't stand it, because see around where I live here, I'm nearly killed every day with bikes. All these middle-class civil servants are all out on their bikes, having a whale of a time, having a rare old time. And they're the ones that say, no, we want to lock everybody down again. You're damn right they want to lock us down, because they don't have to go back to work, and they're still on their full wage with full pension rights. You say the civil servants are going to be down to 30% wages. I can tell you right now, the lockdown will be over tomorrow morning. I can assure you that. The lockdown will finish at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, because everybody will be back at work. And that's what's going on. We're being absolutely screwed into the ground by the elites, who are all socialists and are supposed to be for the common man. They're not. They're on our back, and they're sucking the common man of America, Canada, Britain, Ireland, Australia, and every other country in the West. They are sucking us dry with their greed and avarice. But it's all coming to an end very shortly, I can tell you that. Yep, absolutely. Jacob Lewis says they're going to go for the guns first. Of course they will. They took our guns in the 1920s. Look at us now. We're a slave nation. We're a nation of serfs. 1 million women raped in England. Not a man lifted a hand. Because we're a nation of serfs now. That's what we became. Because we've no way of defending ourselves. Dear brethren in America, whatever happens, and don't get into this lightly, but whatever happens, you should make a pledge, what we call in Ulster Scots world, a covenant. That's a signed declaration between you and your Maker, between you and God, that you will die first before you ever give up one bullet, never mind a gun, before they get one single round off you. you'll be dead. They'll have to take it out of you, as Mr. Heston said, cold, dead hands. Because once they've got your weapons off you, you're finished. Remember this, you're finished. Yep, okay. Listen, that's all from me. I'm going to leave you for today. We're going to have Nick on tomorrow. Remember, if you need the gauntlets are here. We're running low and large and extra large, so you better get them quick. And anybody who hasn't yet got one, the nice, the beautiful Deuce Vault book. Now, some people have got them already. Quite a lot of people. Our brother Boudin's get back to me. Our dear brother in West Virginia, William Petit's get back to me. They're saying they're really, really good books. It's not for us to say, it's for you. It's you decide if they're good or not. But the feedback we're getting now is, I'll say an American word, will I? Awesome. That's what we're getting told. It's awesome. So if it's awesome, it must be good. Get it. If you haven't got one, get them. The link will be there. I think the boy's going to put a link up. That's all from me. I'm very interested. I can't wait till tomorrow to see what Mr. Griffin's going to say to us. But until then, remember, I say it every time, but I mean it. And as time goes on, I mean it even more and more and more. Stick close to God. You won't go far wrong. Deuce Vault.